The good news is that the spring game is tomorrow. The bad news, Oregon recruiting going in the wrong direction.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks. Plenty coming today. What's going to happen on the secondary? All sorts of portal chatter to get to on the basketball front. Ducks are getting drafted left and right. No surprise there. That's all great news on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. It's been a quiet month of real time for the Ducks on the trail, and it wasn't getting any better yesterday when one of their highest rated commits overall and their only offensive line commit was flipped by the Washington Huskies. So Kodi Greene is no longer committed to the Ducks. Could they get back into the fold? I don't know, perhaps, but this came about pretty quickly on my end, and it seems like it had actually been in the works for a little while on the Washington side of things, but no question about it, this is a setback for Oregon in the 2026 cycle. It's not the first decommitment they've had. Every class has got decommitments. It's still only April. Yeah, I get all of that. I think this is the biggest setback that Oregon has faced so far, because you go from not just falling outside for the moment of a top 10 class nationally, which is where I think the recruiting standard is for Dan Lanning and the staff, but you now have to start from scratch recruiting offensive linemen into the class. Jackson Cantwell, who we'll talk about more in a moment, has been crystal balled to Georgia with a commitment coming on May 13th. So it is going to ratchet up. Oregon will get recruiting wins again. It just hasn't been a good month timeline-wise for the Ducks on the trail. And I'm certainly not in panic mode, but I definitely, saw this news roll in early yesterday morning and thought, well, that's not great. Like when Bot decommitted, it was okay. Yeah, would have liked to have him, talented guy. Okay, when Tamahuni Tapui, I think I butchered that name, with a 4-star defensive lineman flipped to USC, I thought, man, I really, really thought he could have been a Brandon Dorless type and, can be for USC. But I wasn't yet in the mode of, well, that's a major setback. Like, this is a pretty sizable setback because Oregon loses a really, really talented player and they lose to Washington. That never feels great. And now you're going up against a lot of heavy hitters for 5-star offensive tackles. One name to keep an eye on that I've seen Oregon get tied to is Kevin Abbott, a 4-star, highly rated 4-star guy, number 9 overall offensive tackle in the class of 2026. The other 4 schools in the fold are Michigan, Utah, USC, and Nebraska. So that's a name that could move in to kind of be as a replacement for Kodi Greene, but Jackson Cantwell and Emmanuel Iheanacho are now front and center in my mind for Oregon's 2026 recruiting efforts. I think that's where the focus should be in addition to Jared Curtis. Ryder Lyons is not, as of the time I'm recording this show, officially committed to USC. He's been crystal balled to go there, but we all know those have a greater than 50% hit rate, not a 100% success rate though. And you never know when kids commit if they're going to keep their recruitments open at all. But the need for Oregon in the offensive line department is pretty severe now that you don't have one and you're going after some highly touted guys. But I'd really like to see him get at least one. Getting 2 would be a major, major rabbit out of the hat to get both Iheanacho and Cantwell. But I think between Abbott, Iheanacho, and Cantwell, if Oregon can get 2 of those guys, not necessarily the 2 5-stars, then they'll still be in a really good place. But yeah, losing Kodi Greene, not the recruiting news I was hoping for. It has been a quiet down month for the Ducks on the trail. I do not anticipate that that's going to stretch into May and June. Remember, at this time last year, Oregon did not have DeCorian Moore, nor did they have Na'eem Offord. Their 2 most highly coveted, highest rated recruits in the 2025 class. So there's still a lot of time. But certainly for now, this is a setback of sorts. All the more reason why you should be getting to Autzen Stadium on Saturday if you're able to, because you want to make the best environment possible for those recruits that are visiting. So the other thing on Cantwell, I got a question that came in from Steve. I have a hot take / question. While I know that NIL is only one of many important parts of recruiting, we can gather that some recruits put more weight on it than others, Jackson Cantwell being one of them. That's kind of what I've heard, yeah. My take is that I think Cantwell is actually leaning Oregon and is going to see his final NIL offer this weekend, but his camp strategically announced the extra Georgia visit in order to get a last-minute spike on his Ducks offer and will commit if we meet that number, so Georgia is sort of a pawn. Could this be true? Does this happen? Am I overthinking it? As to whether or not it's true, I can't tell you. I'm not that tied into his recruitment to know whether or not he is playing that level of four-dimensional chess. As for this entire scenario, I know for a fact way crazier things have happened before. So if you want to keep it in your mind as a possibility, you go right ahead. That's your prerogative, and you're not tinfoil hat insane for thinking about that. But do I anticipate it? No. Do I think that we may never learn the full details of any recruitment? Yeah. You never know everything that goes down with a kid, no matter who you know or who you have spoken to. So, yeah, there can be a lot of those sorts of situations, but Cantwell and Ian Nacho, I don't believe has a lockdown commitment date the way that Cantwell does, but early May post-spring game, there are going to be a couple of big names coming off the board. Jackson Cantwell on May 13th and May 5th, 8 days earlier, number one overall quarterback Jared Curtis, who is down to Oregon and Georgia. And for Cantwell, you've got Oregon in the fold, Miami in the mix, Georgia's got the crystal ball right now. Those are kind of the leaders, I believe. There might be one other school in the mix for Cantwell, but I look at where Oregon sits now, the offensive line urgency, it picks up because you can have some classes that are heavier towards one position group than some other recruiting classes. You never want to be completely empty or essentially set yourself up to be totally reliant on the portal in any given year. The portal is an option. It is a way to make your team better. You can't guarantee because you don't know. Offensive tackle, pretty big position in the transfer portal. Isaiah World, of course, is likely to be Oregon's starting left tackle. Johnny Cornelius was really good. Alex Harkey comes in. I think this is a position group where you want to be well suited with your high school recruiting classes year after year after year with guys like Josh Connerly, for instance, who was one of 2 Ducks selected in the first round. He goes to the Commanders, a great situation for him to be in because the Commanders throw the football a lot with Jaden Daniels, and I think Connerly is going to fit into that offense really, really well. He was taken 29th overall. 20th overall, I believe, is where Derek Harmon got selected. And Harmon was the first Duck taken off the board. That is 6 straight years Oregon has had a first-round draft pick. Connerly went 29th and Harmon 21st to the Steelers. I love, absolutely positively love both of those fits for Oregon's 2 best trench players from a year ago. Other Ducks will come off the board in the coming days, but 2 in the first round, never a bad thing. This question also came in, getting caught up on your shows, heard you ask about Ducks getting drafted. I saw in a couple mock drafts, and I saw where the Dolphins were projected to take Dylan Gabriel. I know that Mike McDonald likes his left-handed Hawaiian quarterbacks. What do you think? I think it'd be great if Dylan Gabriel gets drafted. I think someone could take a late-round flyer on him. Don't even expect him to be a day 2 pick. I think he could, he's someone who could legitimately get drafted, like Mr. Irrelevant, like Brock Purdy, 6th, 7th round, in that sort of range, just because he is really, really small. And by the way, after day 1, Shedeur Sanders is still on the board. So that tells you where the NFL draft scout community is on quarterbacks in this draft. Not very high if Shedeur Sanders unexpectedly fell out of the first round. So, I think Gabriel is awesome, of course. I don't think he has the greatest NFL prospects in the world. Do I expect him to get drafted? Yeah, I think someone will take a flyer there, but there were 2 quarterbacks taken in the first round, and one of them was Jackson Dart, which is mostly a draft selection on physical traits. So busy news day yesterday for Oregon, and more on the quarterbacks coming, plus. What do we do with the secondary? I'm going to try. First, this episode brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV shows from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Check them out at Amazon Fire TV. All right, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna take a stab at this Oregon secondary. Going into the spring game, I will assess every position group post spring game, and we'll see how many changes there will be from my predictions. This is the one I am so. First of all, I'm excited to watch because there's talent in the room. There's a blend of up and coming young guys, talented true freshmen, experienced guys as well. Like, it's all over the place. And I just don't know what to make of this unit right now. There's so much unknown. They're going to get, I'll tell you right now, up front, they will have my lowest overall position group grade going into the spring game. Of anyone that I've done, they've got the lowest one because there's so much to not know. They have the most room, I think, for growth in my position group grade assessment. So just keep that in mind. So in the room of secondary players, I'm not just looking at safeties or just corners, 5 defensive backs on the field in Oregon's base personnel. In no particular order: Dalen Austin, Kingston Lopa, Sione Laulea, Brandon Finney, Theron Johnson, Jalil Florence, Ife Obadegwu, Trey McNutt, Dakota Fields, Peyton Woodyard, Na'eem Offord, Solomon Davis, Dorian Brew, Aaron Flowers, Jadon Kennedy, and Dylan Thieneman. So that's the list of guys who are battling for starting spots right now or playing time in general. Oregon lost their top 6 defensive backs from last year who all played a sizable role. I expect at least 6 will be key contributors for Oregon this year. And there's only one I'm 100% confident in. We'll see if that changes post-spring game. So my first crack, oh boy, it's my first crack at doing this. This could be so far off, so far off. First guess on Oregon's starting 5 defensive backs this year can go so many different ways. Dylan Thieneman, the Purdue transfer at safety. The other safety, I'm going with Kingston Lopa, the true sophomore that emerged late last year, mostly in the Big Ten championship game. 6'4", heck of an athlete. I'll put him at the other safety spot. At nickel, I'm going with Jadon Kennedy, the Ole Miss transfer, to begin the year because I just don't know. That's the one I don't feel great about. I frankly, I have nothing against the guy just based on what I know about, his play at Ole Miss the last several years. I don't want him to start. I just get the sense that his experience, which is several years in the SEC, could lead to him starting at least at first before a young guy could jump in there. But I'll have him as the starting nickel at one cornerback spot. Drum roll, please. I'm going with Jalil Florence. And he's coming off an injury, but he's really good and was one of Oregon's top 2 corners in 2023 for a reason. If he's fully healthy, and the reports have been that he is, then that's someone who I think can be an all-conference caliber corner. And he's, 6'1", 6'2". He's looked the part from the moment he set foot on campus, has played since he was a true freshman. The staff clearly likes him. He's stuck around for a reason. I think he is heavily involved. At the other corner spot, I'm not putting a second transfer in there. And see, this is kind of where I went back and forth, is Theron Johnson, the transfer from Northwestern. You think that he's someone that comes in and starts? we'll see. Maybe they slide him to nickel. The similarities between him and Brandon Johnson are kind of funny. They're the same height. They were honorable mention at their previous school, which was a Power 4 academically driven institution, Northwestern and Duke, and their last name's Johnson. No relation, at least that I'm aware of. So maybe he slides in and takes the Brandon Johnson role as a starting nickel. That Brandon Johnson was really good last year. Maybe that's what he does. But I'll put Kennedy at that nickel spot. And at the other corner, I've just read too much about him to not put him in this position. Ife Obadegwu, second-year corner, was one of Oregon's highest-rated overall recruits, but also defensive back recruits in the class of 2024. Did not play in a meaningful way a year ago. I think he's got a real chance. He is one of my non-freshmen to keep an eye on in the spring game because he could see a big increase in playing time and suddenly find himself playing as important of a role as a starting outside corner. Now, the other guy to keep an eye on here is someone who was on the 2 deep last year as, a number 2 outside corner who was a pretty highly touted recruit, has some experience, and also has some real size. And that's Sione Laulea. I think he is flying under the radar. He was the top JUCO corner coming out of the 2024 class, or in the 2024 cycle's the appropriate way to put it. So he's played some ball, not a ton with Oregon. He was just kind of there a season ago, mostly got in mop-up time. But boy, 6'3", he moves really, really well. And I don't know what he does against the run because we haven't really seen that from him. But I think of everybody in this room, he's flying under the radar the most of any other person. Like I see, discussions or articles or whatever about all sorts of guys like Ife or Jalil Florence. Nothing on... I don't know how my mic got nudged forward there, but I just saw it in the screen. It really, really bugged me. Anyway, just OCD kind of stuff. I think that he has intriguing physical upside, a year of experience. You can't overlook that. The staff is certainly like that during their tenure in the secondary. So keep an eye on Sione Laulea and how he looks on Saturday in the spring game. The 2 true freshmen I'm keeping my eye on the most. This is the greatest defensive back haul in Oregon football history. In the class of 2025, Chris Hampton got the 24/7 Sports Recruiter of the Year because of it. Na'eem Offord is the highest rated DB commit in the history of Oregon football. I really do hope, because his potential is so immense, he works his way into the fold early on. And by the end of the season, kind of like DeCorian Moore, I think DeCorian will have a bigger early impact. Hopefully by the end of the year, Offord is someone that Oregon's defense is playing a lot, because I want him to get that sort of experience. And in 2026, watch him go out and compete for the Jim Thorpe Award, because that's what he's capable of doing. He is that sort of guy. He could play nickel. He's not being moved to safety, according to Tosh Lupoy. He could play outside corner. I think nickel is the best way he sees the field. And I would love to come away from Saturday's game saying, yeah, forget Kennedy. He's a veteran depth piece. Offord's too good to not put out there. So he, along with Trey McNutt, are the freshmen I'm most interested to see, because those two guys are fighting for snaps at a spot where the depth isn't quite as strong. It's not as if there aren't other safeties like Peyton Woodyard or Aaron Flowers, who were blue chip recruits in their own right coming out of high school. McNutt, though, 5-star safety. I think Kingston Lopa's a starter. As I said, don't say that with the highest degree of confidence, though. The only guy I know that's starting in this secondary for the Ducks is Dylan Thieneman. That's it. That's the only guy I know, and it's why this group is the most intriguing to watch in the spring game on Saturday, and we know they're going up against a really good group of receivers. This is the lowest position group grade I'll give out going into the game. Maybe I'll change my mind later, but I'm giving them a C, which in my mind is average. I'm a tough grader. I just don't know. I can't give you a B when I haven't seen any sort of proven production or even a glimpse of what you've got. So that to me makes the secondary, as I've said for quite a while, the biggest question mark on this Oregon football team. along with Dante Moore? That's a pretty sizable question too. Certainly we'll be watching for that. But I just think the secondary changing as much as it had, it's just going to be fascinating. So I can't wait to watch. We know they're going to be tested because this receiver room is awesome. Speaking of Dante Moore, I got a question about him I'll answer on today's show. And is there any sort of portal buzz brewing on the hardwood? First, this episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel's giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. From three-pointers to steals to assists, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. And if you want to bet things related to Oregon football, you can do just that. It's pretty easy. All you got to do is check them out at FanDuel.com. You got win total, national title odds, Big Ten championship odds, Heisman odds for Dante Moore. It's all over there. Check them out. Don't miss out at FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Check them out at FanDuel.com. Everything I've been asking for Oregon basketball in the transfer portal is available. Puff Johnson from Penn State would be ideal. He is 6'8", not a big three-point shooter, but this past year at Penn State, began his career at North Carolina, averaged 10 points per game. Power 4, Big Ten, double-digit point per game score. He's only 30% from distance. Okay, that's not ideal. Oregon just went through that with TJ Bamba. They made an adjustment by the end of the year. I think they could do that with Puff Johnson if he came over. But the reason that I say Johnson is a perfect addition for the Ducks, he's going into his 6th year of college basketball. He's played at North Carolina and Penn State. He hasn't been a huge part of either of those teams, just averaged a career best 10.5 points per game this past year. But someone who is experienced, who I know can play and produce at the Power 4 level. Frankly, if Nate Biddle comes back, I don't need to bring someone in the portal that's going to be a 15, 20 point a game scorer. I just need an 8 to 10 point a game scorer. Shellstad and Biddle are going to carry most of the scoring load. Then you need someone that can contribute and occasionally give you 15 to 20. And KJ Evans' offense has to take a step forward. I think it can. Whether or not it does, we shall see. But I think he's very capable of being that sort of guy. But what Oregon needs, and what I've been clamoring for weeks on this show, for Oregon to address in the transfer portal, is proven Power 4 production. Their 3 transfers, none of them have that. You have TK Simpkins, the guard from Elon, 6'4", 16 points a game. All right, all-conference performer, great. Raheem Moss was an all-conference performer in a better league than where Simpkins is coming from. Moss averaged less than 2 points a game for the Ducks this year and was mostly a defensive specialist sort of guy. So I'm not relying on Simpkins as being someone who comes in and starts alongside Jackson Shellstad, and those two combine for 30 points every game. I'm not sitting around waiting for that. Then you got Miles Goodman, big man who came over from Penn State. Pretty highly rated recruit. 6'10", 6'11", 225, intriguing physical prospect. 1 point a game last year. He's blocked 1 shot in his lone season of college basketball because he has only played more than 10 minutes in a game, like twice. His career high in minutes in a game is 16. So I'm not relying on him either. Devon Pryor, 3 points a game at Texas. Intriguing physical prospect. Does not have a proven track record of production. And so at least if you brought in Johnson from Penn State, that's what you would be getting. So that's why I look at him and say that's a perfect fit. That's exactly what Oregon needs. I know that if Johnson transfers to Oregon, he's going to come in and start. I know that that's going to happen. I have no idea if Simpkins or Pryor or Goodman's going to start. I think Pryor would be the most likely candidate. But again, you're asking a guy who just averaged 3 points a game while at Texas in a limited bench role to come in and be a 10 to 12 point a game scorer. Maybe they think he can do that. Okay. But that's an unknown. There's no certainty there. When TJ Bamba came in last year, there was a certainty to it. Where it's, wait, Raheem Moss is in a bench role, Bamba's starting. There was no doubt about that whatsoever. There is no doubt transfer in this Oregon portal class right now. So that's the first piece of potential buzz. I haven't seen that Oregon's tied to him. I just think that that's a perfect fit, and I hope they go after him. Second thing to know, Paul Mbyia, who is, I believe, pondering going directly into the NBA draft. I don't think that would be a good decision for him. He's an incredibly raw prospect, but he is the second coming of N'Faly Dante. I think Oregon's 2 portal additions or new player acquisitions need to be a guard/wing, and also, or maybe more of a guard and have a backup point guard. That depends on what Des Lindsey's able to do. But I don't know who the backup point guard is right now, quite frankly. Maybe it's Simpkins. I don't know. But Mbyia is someone that can be N'Faly Dante Part 2. And Oregon, reportedly, is in France at the moment. They've sent, I don't know exactly who they sent, but someone is there they're there to visit him in person. So they're going after him pretty aggressively. I think Dana is looking at his highlight film and going, there he is. There's our next Dante. Everything about it's the same. Stature, background, play style, mannerisms, all the same. You bring him in, you get Nate Biddle back, there's your front court. Now you need a wing/guard that can come in with proven production, and then you're good to go. Put the team together, go make another NCAA tournament run, and hopefully get past the round of 32 for the first time since the COVID tournament. So in 2021. So I think that is a solid place to be overall, but those things have to actually happen first. And as I said, they haven't been directly tied to Puff Johnson. It's just, that's perfect. That's everything that I want in a transfer. So hopefully the staff sees it the same way. We'll wrap with a football question here this week. Spencer, this from Blazer Duck. With Dante Moore most likely our starting quarterback, with his height and arm strength, how does that open up the playbook for what Oregon was able to do with Dillon Gabriel? Well, as we saw during the NFL Combine process, Dillon Gabriel doesn't have a weak arm. Dillon Gabriel isn't incapable of throwing the ball down the field. I do think that the middle of the field was utilized less than it was with Bo Nix because Dillon Gabriel is small. It's harder for him to see over the line. Obviously, he made it work and was a tremendous college quarterback. The floor with Dante Moore is much lower than Dillon Gabriel. The ceiling is much higher. I think the floor for Dante Moore is something that we've already seen. That's the worst that he can be as a football player, is what he was at UCLA in 2023 when he couldn't protect the ball consistently. His ceiling, though, I think is pretty close to Bo Nix. He's taller. He does have a bigger arm. He's got more arm talent. You know, he can drop down and get creative with some arm slots from time to time. And, you know, when you watch highlight tapes of these guys getting drafted in the NFL, you see that pretty often with Mahomes or with Cam Ward. He has a little bit. Matt Stafford back in the day was the first guy that really did that. So I definitely think the ceiling is higher. I don't think the offense is going to change a whole heck of a lot. Like, it is a high completion, minimal downfield shot offense. Gabriel throws a perfectly fine deep ball. We saw him throw some gorgeous deep shots last year regularly. It's just not a huge part of Oregon's offensive philosophy under Will Stein. And you can take that as a criticism all you want. The results are hard to argue with. It's back-to-back quarterbacks that are Heisman finalists. Nobody else in the entire country can say that. I mean, he did that with 2 quarterbacks who were very different stylistically. Bo Nix was a first-round pick. Dillon Gabriel might get drafted. Both guys, same offense, slightly different players, Heisman finalists. Like, that's a testament to what Will Stein's system is. You go back to his time at UTSA, same sort of thing. So I don't think just because there was a deep shot to Gary Bryant Jr. going around Twitter from Dante Moore that all of a sudden Oregon is going to look like 2019 LSU or 2023 Washington. Philosophically, it's not what they are going to do. I don't think it's what they need to do. It does, of course, need to be a factor in the offense. We saw with Anthony Brown in 2021. If you can't push the ball down the field, you're going to have offensive problems. You have to be able to, you cannot allow safeties to play at the first down marker on 1st and 10 because they know you're not going to try and push this ball 25 to 30 yards down the field. So I don't think it's going to change a whole heck of a lot. I think there are some elements of it that could be different, but overall, I expect the offense to look mostly the same, just with Dante Moore running the show. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.